answer, but could you shortly summarize your ideal alternative or your preferred system to the one that we currently are operating under, which is capitalism?
Larry?
I am very much concerned about a couple of things. Number one, I'm concerned about what's happening to our disability community along with the other minority groups in this society. We are underemployed or unemployed about 67, 70%. We try to go out and get a job. We get our medical benefits taken away. The governor in the state wants to cut our in-home supportive services or put the workers and the clients under extreme duress because he's claiming he's going after a massive level of fraud. And it's really, it's really bad. Second thing is that we have a persuasion industry in this country that facilitates all of these demagogues, these syndicated talk show hosts, which who are not there to, they're not interested in educating people. They're there to fan the flames of ignorance, prejudice, and hatred, and they're taking advantage of the anger of people. And it's happening on both the right and also on the left, because the left has to be able to do the same sort of a thing. Because so there's no dialogue in the mainstream media, and we need to do something about it, and I don't know what to do about it.
Well, as you answer the first gentleman's question, as we solve this problem, how do we keep ourselves competitive in this globalized world?
Okay, let me try quickly to respond. These are difficult questions, very good questions. I appreciate them. As to the Karl Marx, we seem to have a pretty good set of experiences now that we didn't have 75 years ago as to the difficulties that befall economies in which the government basically takes over more or less credit, banking, and the other things that the question mentioned. So I think most people in the world, both those who lived in those societies and those elsewhere, are fairly well persuaded, I am, that that's not the road to go. We have now learned that presents a whole other set of problems that don't make that the solution. So that makes sense to me, and so I wouldn't see the solution that way. What would I see? Well, it's really what I said at the end. It's about something that has nothing to do with the government. It has to do with a different way of organizing enterprises, of having enterprises operated by the people who work in them. This is not about the government taking them over. It's not about the government running them, nothing of the sort. This is a bottom-up, not a top-down proposal. What I'm interested in is changing the way people who work, do the work in our society, how they think about their jobs, how they think about wages, how they think about running their enterprises. And I don't think that's possible in the system we have now. The corporation leaders that I know personally and that I've worked with, they do what a corporation leader is supposed to do, by and large. They're there to make money for their company. That's what they get paid to do. That's what their job is. The shareholders want them to do that, vote them in. If they do, vote them out. If they don't, that's the way this system works. We can't be surprised with the results if we set it up that way. If we want different results, we have to set it up a different way. Let me give you an example. If a company pollutes within 25 miles of where the company is located, it spews terrible stuff into the air. If the people who own and operate that enterprise, the board of directors who live 40 miles away in a lovely leafy suburb, and the major shareholders who live thousands of miles away, for them, the pollution is not a problem. But if the workers who lived in that environment and who worked there, if they ran the business, the pollution would be a problem. They would have to deal with it. It would make no sense for them to say, well, it boosts the bottom line if I pour toxic stuff into my baby's throat. Huh? No, no, no. That makes no sense. I'm not asking for people to be noble, and I'm not asking for people to be environmentalists. I'm asking for people to think in terms of their own self-interest. You know, we in America like to think it's good to have private ownership of your home, because if you really own your own home, you'll take better care of it than if you don't. Well, if that logic applies, then people would have to have a ownership position and a real control position of their job. Otherwise, they won't deal with their job and the job's results in the same way. Hello? Here's the thought. Change the way business is organized from the bottom up. It's not about the government. Indeed, if masses of workers at the workplace controlled collectively the profits they produce, it would give them the strength to control the government a lot more than they have now as individual citizens. They would then have the power as groups of workers that is now in the hands of corporations who have all that money to shape the government. So this is a way of changing the whole way a society works. It's not about government taking over. We have seen what happens. If we get rid of the private enterprise board of directors and we substitute a group of state officials, we haven't changed very much. The mass of people still come to work from 9 to 5. They still produce profits, and they're still in the hands of other people, state officials, instead of privately elected shareholder representatives. That's not a change that's fundamental. What would be fundamental is to make workers themselves operate. And by the way, just a footnote. If that idea strikes you as bizarre, it shouldn't. Because it's all over the place. It's in our history, and it's in the United States now. There's a famous folklore of the area not very far from here, Silicon Valley, from San Francisco to San Jose. Every year, hundreds, for the last 50 years, every year hundreds of engineers quit their job at IBM, Cisco Systems, and other places. And they get together a group of 10, 20, 30, 40 other software engineers, and they take their laptops and they gather in somebody's garage. And here's how they organize their business. We all come to work, not in suits and ties the way we used to have to, not at 9 o'clock and worry what the supervisor is going to tell us what to do. Instead, we come, we can wear Bermuda shorts, we can bring a frisbee, we can be high as a kite, but we work up, and everybody's equal here. No supervisors, no board of directors, no president. We're going to work, and guess what? They love it. They say they're more productive that way. They're more creative. And you know something? The statistics bear them out. More of the great breakthroughs of American technology that capitalists say is a result of capitalism turns out not to be. It's the product of those little enterprises where the workers are in a different framework. We decide what we do. We get together. We work Monday to Thursday on software. Friday, we come to work, and here's what we do. We sit around all day and we have meetings. We are our own board of directors. We run the business themselves, and I'd rather work here than go back to that kind of job I had any day. Ask yourself the question. If you believe in freedom of choice, as Americans like to say they do, then American workers ought to have a choice to work in a top-down capitalist enterprise of the usual sort, or to work in an enterprise owned and operated by the workers themselves. You choose. See what you feel like. And as a consumer, you ought to have a little label on the back of the shirt. Was it made in China or the United States? But here's another label. Was it made by workers who work in a collective way? Or was it made in a classical capitalist corporation? Let's see what people prefer to buy. And let's see where people prefer to work. Of course, if you're afraid of what the choice might be, you won't allow the choice to exist, which is how we run the United States now. About the disabled. It's a very important question, because the disabled in our society are just one of many groups being savaged by these cuts. The cost of a capitalism is its periods of breakdown when people's lives are transformed, if not destroyed. You have to ask yourself as a citizen in this culture whether you really want to stay with an economic system that functions in this way. You know, our problem today is not that we are unproductive as a nation. We aren't. We have lots of people who want to work. Millions of them. Tens of millions of them. We have the work that can be done. The government keeps a statistic called capacity utilization. It's a measure of how much of the factory space, office space, and machinery that we actually have is being used, as opposed to sitting there idle. Current capacity utilization in the United States today, 66%. 1/3 of our productive capacity is sitting there rusting. Tens of millions of people want to work. 1/3 of the tools, space, office space,